Hi, everyone. I apologize for being a little late. So, this is our first call of 2023. I can't tell you how many things have gotten in the way of us doing this call, but we're here now, and that's what counts. Thanks for being patient with me and being so supportive. I scratched my eye on Thursday, which, as many of you can imagine, it's very painful. So, been trying to rest and heal. But I have a lot to share today, so I'm trying to pull my energy together here for you, and get my lighting correct. Meanwhile, I'm just so glad to see you. We have already so many people on the line, and thank you so much for joining us. All right, so wanted to cover a few things today, and first, what has been happening the past few months? Here we come out of the solstice, the solstice, and it feels like years have happened in 3 months. And you know what, folks? That's because it has. Years of things have happened in just a few months. And this year is going to feel like 20 years of stuff, I've realized, come to find out. So we never know exactly what's going to happen until we're in it, right? So we got through solstice. This last year was this huge wave. We called it the Black Wave. The native people, especially here in the Amazon, many of you might remember I'm in Ecuador. This black wave of energy coming down and going through very systematically all of the possible blocks, all of the possible traumas, all the dharma, all of the polarities that are in you have had to be revealed in the past year, right? So then we come out of that, and solstice has been really powerful for a lot of revealing, and it laid out a brand new playing field, a formless field of power. But as nice and wonderful as it's been to look at that, sorry, my hair is absolutely nuts. This is how it's been feeling, a little crazy and nuts, like my hair. But the playing field, while it reveals all this clear and formless light, don't underestimate how that stuff works on you. If the playing field is clear and formless, then anything inside of us that's not clear and formless has to be revealed. And that's what's been happening the past 3 months. So if we do this well, if we're good mystics, right? And you are. we're good mystics. That's what we're here for. If we do this well, then that works on us, right? And that's exactly what happens. So I don't want to get too much into my personal experience, but just just really looking at the past few months, how I might describe it from a more universal vantage point is that if you came out of solstice with the intention of being homo luminous, this year is going to make it easier for you to do that in the long run, but only if you're willing, only if we're willing for all of those structures to be shattered, right? For all of the illusions to be shattered. So there's been a big one for me in January. I intended to use the energy, right? So I want to embody this kind of stuff, and it's really hard to do unless you're willing to lay out whatever's not in the same alignment with the energy. So that's what I did. I laid it out and I said, show me my illusions. Be careful what you ask for. January was all about my greatest fears. I wanted so much for so long to be like my teacher and be fearless, be a fearless warrior. And you've heard me talk, some of you before, about how I've like realized I had to retire from being a warrior in order to end being at war. If you don't want to be at war, then you have to retire being a warrior. So I was trying that angle, but that wasn't going to cut it because I keep getting attacked anyway, one way or another. So I was like, all right, well, I think I just need to get to the bottom of my fear. So I laid that out. But honestly, that took me out so physically to have to go sit in my greatest fear, which is so dramatic, from a personal vantage point, that it felt like annihilation. And yet, what happened? It didn't kill me. Those sorts of things don't kill you, even though it feels like it will. But what I gained was great. So being able to merge with the thing that I'm most afraid of, which is the opposite of myself. Right? So if I'm luminosity, I finally discovered in January, with all intent to do community call about it. But literally we've had to wait 3 months. So going in and saying, okay, if I'm luminosity, what's the opposite of luminosity? Well, I know exactly what that is because I've had run-ins with that energy, and that energy was basically consumption, right? If luminosity radiates energy and power, then the opposite of that is like a black hole, and it just keeps taking it, right? So in consciousness, you have to find, if you really want to go for this homo luminous thing and embody something different as we go into times that are very powerful and can bring up and will bring up a lot of fear, we need to try to angle ourselves into fearlessness. So I encourage you, find the thing that seems like the opposite of you and go be with it. So what happened when I merged was surprising, because I thought, oh, well, I'm going to feel annihilated. I'm going to feel destroyed. That's not what happened at all. Instead, it was a shortcut home. And instead of being pushed out of the universe and disappeared or thrown into non-existence, it took me to the middle. It was like I was reborn by recognizing my essence, which is that's not the end of the game there. The essence is just the energy you take on when you decide, or when you're part of the individuation from source, so that you can be in relationship with other parts of source. That's how source uses the universe to discover the truth. And instead of getting shot out of the universe like I expected, expectations are useless with this kind of stuff, I ended up being thrown into the center and seeing this essence that I keep calling myself, and this other thing that I kept calling the opposite of myself, and all the other facets, including you, and realizing this is all perfect. This is all here. This is all necessary. These are all facets of reality that must exist. All right, so that was January. But what happens when you have a breakthrough? So this is a kind of important mystical physics, right? We're getting in the physics of mysticism. When you have a breakthrough, you release a huge amount of energy because you've gotten through to the bottom of some kind of process or some kind of egoic structure, right? Some kind of fear, some sort of expectation, some judgment, some attachment. You get to the bottom of it. You release a lot of energy because that's consciousness under pressure. And now you just released it and it went, And that wave goes way out to the edge of the universe, folks. And then it comes back. And that's exactly what happened. So I get through all this, but it kind of took me out energetically. So end of January, I couldn't do a call. I wanted to, but I was like, I'm going to have to postpone this. I can't physically do this. I couldn't get out of bed. So it's like, all right, well, we'll try to get through February. Yeah, well, that wave, that release to become fearless, such a huge release of power that it came right back at me. And I almost made some grave mistakes because I felt invincible, right? So it threw me into another polarity where I was like, I feel invincible now because I feel so fearless. Like nothing can be quite like that energy that I just dealt with that I thought was gonna destroy me and literally make me disappear, annihilate me, right? So I swing over into arrogance, right? I swing over into arrogance, which is really easy for me to do. And because there's still a lot of ego and worthlessness for me to manage. And so I'm over here in this feeling of being invincible. And what do I pull in? I draw in this energy, this wave comes to test you. So every time you have a breakthrough, you open up into a new dimension, or you open to a new way of seeing things. You open into a new place. And you release some consciousness under pressure. It's full of power and light. That wave goes out to the edge and it comes back to test the field to see how well established is your breakthrough. How open is your field? Did you really embody that dimension? And this is built in to consciousness. And it's clockwork. You can literally time it. And the deeper you get, the faster those waves come. So if you're more expansive because you've opened up into some awesome dimension, that wave is gonna come faster because you're bigger, because you are more expanded. So there's less room between the edge of the universe and you. So that wave came crashing in to remind me that I'm not invincible. And I almost made some pretty seriously grave mistakes in my arrogance. Boy, that'll squash that real quick and get me back to balance, get me back into humility. And that was an important test of the field. To say, oh, Elizabeth, you stepped your boundary here. You thought it was all about you, as usual. So it hit me, of course, that wave. And what does it do? It destabilizes the body. My opening tends to be health, so my health will just go down. And what you can use that for is another breakthrough. So what happened was that wave, it got me out of my arrogance, got me humble, got me more neutral about fearlessness, about power. And then it showed me, because that wave is going to ping you. It's going to hit some sort of structure or trauma that you need to deal with, or a cycle. In this case, it was a cycle. So it hit me, and then February was all about perceiving this cycle of how I tend to go towards arrogance first, how I tend to go, I go down health-wise first. And then I was able to recognize sovereignty. How do you stand in your power? How do you continue to radiate all the light that you are without distortion? And I want to address distortion too, because my friend asked me a really good question, my friend Joe, and I'll address that. Because I've been having to chew on it. It was a good question. So I'm just putting that in the field. Let's discuss distortion. But that being said, it showed me another cycle, how I tend to overwork myself. I get stressed out and then I get sick and I overwork myself in consciousness. I never stop. I just don't. I try to meditate and I'm better at it now than I ever have been. But that's the only break I get in consciousness of my own doing, of course. And I keep processing. I keep trying my best to embody all of this light. And it's very humbling. It's been a huge shattering of my illusions. So then I get taken out. And that's what happened at the end of February, too. I couldn't physically function anymore. So then March comes, and it's like, seriously? How did that happen? How did we end up in March? And the same. So dealing with these layers and layers and layers of trauma, pieces, ego stuff, and not letting up. And that cycle, it got down to the bottom of it finally, especially this past week where I was like so excited for Friday. Like, I'm actually going to do this community call. Then I scratched my eye and my skin and my eyes and everything's very soft because I have EDS. So I just rub my eye a little bit and it'll scratch. So it's too easy to hurt myself, basically. But I'm like, ugh, it's more than that. There's some resistance here. There's resistance around where I'm at energetically to sit with you in a public way and be vulnerable. And I realized, you know what it is? I figured it out finally this weekend. I've been so unwilling to ask for help because I tend to do everything myself, and that's a huge ego part. There's the arrogance again. I don't ask for help. I always try to do stuff on my own. I was just on the phone with my friend who has been going through a lot, and I said to her, I finally realized, like, I can't do this. I've been the oldest child where I was always doing everything on my own or everything for everyone else. I don't, as good as I think I am with people, I miss power dynamics. I end up missing it because I've been so solo. I've been a theorist. Theorists don't work well with others. They don't do councils and collaborations so well. I've been trying these collaborations. There have been these Sears roundtables. I've missed a whole bunch of them because of some stupid thing or another, and it's all subconscious. And so I'm like, oh, there's a big linchpin around asking for help, collaborating. These are pieces happening in the collective. So it's going to feel really personal for a while. Everything you're going through feels really personal. But my friends, it's not. And that's what all this is about. So I want to move on past this personal story and I'm trying to use it as an example of what's going on in consciousness, because I'm not alone at all. We're all going through all these things. And my friends around me, I'm seeing them, and they are saying things like, I am being humbled. I'm being humbled right now. I need to get real. And these are really advanced folks around me. And I'm seeing, yeah, okay, I'm not it's not about us as individuals. This has to do with the collective, as it always has. So everything you're going through it with a collective. We're going through it with Indra's net online. And if you're willing to sort of move past the feeling of your own self and you fall back into Indra's net, it's the second dimension. So you fall back into Indra's net and just perceive it. You can kind of notice it energetically. It opens our eyes to see everyone else is going through stuff like this too. So then the end of March rolls around and I wasn't finished with the lesson of arrogance and thinking that poor me, and that's all that I got to do this on my own, which is really the heart of the issue. I had a shaman who was a great warrior, and he's not a practicing shaman, but he's Ecuadorian and a powerful Ecuadorian to boot. Incredible presence. And he made it very clear to me, hey, you need a shaman right now. Like, you're in Ecuador. And it was like, yeah, my tools are from a different place. My skills come from a different lineage. Yet I'm on land that's conscious. And it says, oh, you think that you can deal with this. You think you can manage all this. You've managed a lot, but you're in Ecuador. You weren't born here. You're not of this land. You've come here, thankfully, in service to this land, but this is not your land. This is not where you're going to be able to use these tools fully for everything. You need help. So he came to drop me off last night, and he said, you need a shaman. And it just opened my heart to realize, yeah, I do. I have no skills to deal with the energies of this place fully. And I've gotten as far as I can get with the tools and skills I have. But it's important, my friends, to respect the land. The land is going to require what it's going to require. And we need to respect the cultures and the land and what their tools are. So there's got to be a balance. It doesn't mean that my tools aren't useful, because they are, but they're not going to be useful for everything because, again, my presence here is very new. I've only been in Ecuador here for 2 years. And so I've done as much as I can until now I need help. And that's where we're at. Source is going to force us to work on Indra's net together. You can't psychically see yourself. It's built in. It's built in that way to consciousness. I can't psychically see myself. I get regular readings to see myself, but now I need more than that. I have to reach out for more help, more and more help that's relevant, because we need each other. So we can't stop reaching out to each other for support to get a new perspective. And more than that, don't hold back. Don't hold grudges. Don't hold back. If you're having feelings that are uncomfortable, you have no idea exactly what the other people are thinking or feeling. People can't read each other's minds, no matter whether you're super psychic or not. You can't read minds. So it's really important to be honest and open and transparent. And if people react badly, that's on them. You've got to be able to speak from the heart, folks, with good intention for healing. Right now on the plate, all the linchpins, all the anchor points in consciousness over the past 12,000 years, but much more than that, 800,000 years of patterns. Those have to be undone. So we've got some big ones on the table. Our relationships with our body are number one. So whatever's going on with our bodies, it's the soul's relationship with the body that's going to be completely rehashed over this next year. Our relationships with our trauma, that's what distorts reality. And to answer my friend's question, distortion is distortion. It doesn't have to be a way to blame ourselves. It can just be what it is, because distortion exists, and it exists everywhere. And we want clarity, we want stillness, but distortion is going to show up, and sometimes it's not yours, and sometimes it is. We just want to recognize it and honor it because distortion exists. It exists in the library of consciousness. Therefore, it is loved. So that's my answer to, is distortion a way for us to blame ourselves? No, it doesn't have to be. I've really sat with that. Thirdly, what's coming up is our relationship, obviously, with the land, with the earth. Most of us are not grounded with the earth, and we don't consider the fact that she's constantly there. She's always a player in every single situation. She's always there. There's always a triad going on between two people and the earth. I remember once my father brought me to a battlefield in North America, and we're walking around, and I'm like, it's amazing to me that here's these two armies and they're having this battle, and one of the main players in this battle was the landscape, was the earth. Without the landscape being exactly the way it was, that battle would have not looked the way it did, because the earth was there. She's a player in everything you do. She wants to be acknowledged, and that's going to be something a little different than we've been doing. We don't normally include that in the things we're dealing with. We don't include the earth in our discussions. We don't realize that she's there the whole time, involved in every little thing, every baby step you've taken, every breakthrough, every argument, every healing. She's there. So in this, we call it New Earth. We're going to go into New Earth. Well, we need to recognize her then and include her in that conversation. And in different parts of the earth, she's going to require different things. So I've realized that I need to merge more with the spiritual culture here. The shamans have been here longer than anybody, and they know what to do about stuff that I don't know, that my tools can't fix. So that's something that's on the plate. The next thing that's really big is the relationship between the masculine and feminine, but more so the relationship we have as the feminine in a feminine body, or as masculine in a masculine body. And all the programming, all of what my friend calls the torture suit of masculinity or femininity. You know, I thought for a while, really ignorantly, that we could fix that stuff quickly. That was totally wrong on my part. Just because you can see it clearly doesn't mean it's going to be easy to fix. And it makes sense that it needs some time, because it took a lot of thousands of years to get that way. So that's my bad in thinking that, oh, we can unravel this, we can make this better. We can do it in a year. We can do this fast. No, we can't. It's not supposed to be done that way, which makes it harder, because I want all of us to be able to get out of suffering faster. But we have a lot of shattering to do. We have a lot of unraveling to do. We have a lot of recapitulation to do and a lot of anchors to pull up. It's a lot of work. We got to get our stamina back in place, and the best way to do that is to ask for help. If we can all carry a little bit of the load energetically in consciousness, it'll get better for all of us. This is why we've got to connect at the Indra's net level and keep working in that collaboration, and not give up on our attempts to collaborate versus compete, and not give up on our attempts to heal our connections to the feminine or masculine. And then the feminine and masculine can work together. And that'll be its own unraveling. But the masculine right now especially needs support. And the feminine, we're naturally more formless. So formlessness is going to be different for us. And it's going to feel like torture for others. So we can't give up on supporting each other and just connecting and talking the best that we can. And communication is key. The other pieces that are coming up are that I've been noticing through sessions is all about purpose. People realize that they can't continue to do the same 9 to 5 life. They can't keep buying into the system the way they have. And so they really know that they've got something big they want to offer, but they're really not sure how to offer it. Right? And what's worked before isn't working anymore. It's not working anymore because it's so formless. So like, if before we were able to do research on something and then have breakthroughs and different stuff, then whatever methods we were using, we always need to sort of test them. We need to test them in the energies before we jump in, thinking that our old swimsuit's going to work the same way it has. It can't. We're in completely different energy. And it's only going to get more formless, folks. It's only going to continue to get more intense. This is just the beginning. So this is the new normal, is not what people thought. It always cracks me up that especially the elite will come up with some phrase like, this is the new normal. And what they're doing is they're trying to play off the energy and make you think that they know what that is. The truth is they don't have any idea. They're scrambling worse than anybody because they can't handle formlessness. They're used to using matrix structures to run the show and have power over everybody. It's all falling apart. It's all getting revealed. This is what this year is all about. And we're going to see 20 years, 30 years of information be revealed, decades, perhaps 100, 200 years worth of information get revealed in 1 year. We're going to see 20 years of effort and consciousness and shattering of all of the systems happen in 1 year. In 1 year. That's why it feels so intense. That's why 3 months went by and it felt like a month. But 3 months was jammed into a month. Or vice versa. 3 months has gone by and it feels like forever. It's a little of both. Because what's the sister of formlessness? It's timelessness. So time is all wonky too, just to boot, just to make it even more confusing, if you weren't already. Right? So this is the times we're in. And that's why it feels so maddening. It feels so crazy. And someone asked my British friend on here, why are you so mad? Mad in British English means crazy. Right? So loco. Meanwhile, we're heading towards the inevitable. That has a lot of gravity to it. The inevitability of things have gravity, and they pull us towards outcomes. And the current is very swift now, and it's going to continue exponentially to get faster. That's why you got to get to the bottom of your fear. You're being you're being called to formless fearlessness. And it's unlike any other time on this earth. There's never ever been anything quite like this in this galaxy. We do not have a perfect roadmap because no one, not the Pleiadians, not the Syrians, not the Lyrans, none of them have ever gone through anything quite like this. So if it feels like you don't know what you're doing, That's true. But what an exciting time in consciousness, especially when you realize there is no death. That's also true. So if there is no death, then we're really going to be able to make it through. And you're here for that. You're here for this evolution. That's why we have to keep talking and connecting and communicating and being vulnerable and getting to the bottom of our pain and our arrogance and our worthlessness. Because some of you swing over into your worthlessness. I swing into my arrogance and get into loads of trouble. But when you swing into your worthlessness, we can get into loads of trouble too. Just be present, be humble. That's the answer to that. Be present, be humble. It sounds easier than it is. But try not to assume that you know what anyone else is thinking or what they're going through, because you're looking through your own lenses. Always. That's why we have to communicate with compassion and mirror back to other people what we see and what we're experiencing. So if someone says to you, I'm pissed, I think that you're doing this and this, you need to say to them, I hear you. You're angry at me. You feel that I've been doing this and this. You know, when you do that, it feels awkward at first, but when you do that, people actually finally feel heard. And then they're going to naturally start doing it back to you. They're going to start doing it back to you. Because it feels so good to be truly heard. And don't come in with a but or an and or an if. Just name it. Name what they're telling you. They're telling you, I have this lens and I'm looking at the world this way and I see these things. And they're trying to figure out if it's real or not. And the lens is real. The distortion is real. And so if you name it and you say, yeah, I see that. You have this lens and this is what you're seeing. I hear you. I hear you. You don't have to say, but you're wrong, or, and you can fix it, or if you would just put it aside, you'd feel better. Stop and just hear people. They're looking for an understanding beyond themselves of the illusions that they are perceiving. They want to know if the illusion is real. And if they get a response from you where you're trying to fix it or you're trying to make them wrong, then they're going to keep holding that lens up because you didn't help them see the truth that it actually existed. And that's all they really need most of the time. People just need you to acknowledge what they've said, how they feel. Even if they're mad at you or projecting crazy stuff on you that's not true, if you can acknowledge their feelings, yes, I can see that you feel that way. In your circumstance with this lens, that makes sense. And that's it. And then you stop. And when they're ready to hear what you have to say, they're going to take a deep breath, like, whew. They're going to unfold their arms. They're going to be open to your response. And then you can ask permission and say, may I share with you how I feel and what I'm seeing? And if they're ready to hear that, then you give them a chance to consent. And they could say, no, I'm not ready right now. Good, that's okay. I'm here when you're ready. And if they say, yeah, I do want to hear what you have to say. Well, these things are not how I feel. I know that you feel I've disrespected you. That makes sense from your vantage point. Here's how I feel. Own how you feel. I really do respect you. I might be missing some skills here. I might be ignorant. I didn't really know what you were going through. I am so sorry. I had no idea. I'm I'm suffering over here and I didn't even realize what you were going through. Been looking at my own wounding. Or whatever it is that's showing up. And just own it. Own your own stuff. Own your own lenses. We all have them. We all have them. And those lenses paint the world. And those lenses are made of all the programs that you learned early on, the cultural conditioning, all of the buy-ins. You've been buying into the system. I sure have. Can't tell you how much debt I'm in for college. Talk about buying into the system, right? All this stuff is painting your reality, especially your trauma. So if some friend over and over has screwed you over, then you're going to really not trust people who say they're your friend. When initially that building of trust and friendship is so vital for a long-term relationship. But how many of us actually come to the table without a bunch of trauma around friendship and relationship with humanity when humans are so traumatized? But I'll tell you something. If our star families can handle all of this stuff and their evolution processes, then we can, because they actually had more trauma. I'm not dismissing human trauma here on Earth. It's just that we've been going through this for 800,000 years, and we don't have the genetic information in our bodies from the galactic wars. We have it from our soul's memory. So when you start remembering stuff, which is not what it's cut out to be, by the way, seriously, very painful to remember your past lives. Gosh, if somebody had told me that, I probably wouldn't have wanted to, but I really wanted to, and oh boy, I learned. I learned how painful it really is to remember. But we don't have all of that galactic history written in our DNA. So we're not carrying the worst lenses. If the Syrians and the Pleiadians, who went through serious, major stuff, man, and then they had multiple eons and eons of other planets' information written in their DNA because they were seeded as is on their planets. If they can get through all this, then we can. Then we can. And they're cheering us on. They're also not going to get involved too much unless you incarnated, and then you're being looked after to some extent. But you got to do this. You were the brave one, by the way. You got both picked and you volunteered to do this work. You're the brave one. So all of our other star families, they're being supportive from afar most of the time. And they're like, you go, you can do it. You're the best of us. That's who you are. That's who you are. And that's why it's so different. It's different. That's why they can't be like, here's what you do, because it's not the same. This experiment here isn't even close to the way it was on any other planets. It's unique. So all this new stuff going on in the past 800,000 years on Earth, the way it's panning out, that's why it feels so nuts. Because it's so new. And we don't have really any good advice but our own experiences and each other. We need each other. It's built in. All right, let me go through and look at some of your questions and such. But I feel you. I feel the solidarity. I know all of you have been cheering for each other and myself, of course. I seriously appreciate it. I truly feel it. All of you are amazing. I'm always so impressed at the caliber of people who are really here trying to work so hard on themselves and some way or another find me interesting, which is so cool. But if anything, vulnerability can be a very deep superpower. And that's why I want to take it to the universal experience. And always do that. Always make this about us as humanity. And we can do that in our personal lives. Susan says, every single word's resonating so deeply. The physical, the oldest child, the difficulty asking for help. I so appreciate your willingness. Yeah. And that supports everybody, right? Because then you're like, oh, good, I'm not alone. Elizabeth seems smart, maybe. So if she's struggling too, then we're all in the same boat. And we can pat each other on the back because we're all on the cutting edge of consciousness here. Nobody's ahead of the game. Now, of course, if you can surround yourself in good mystics and good teachers and people who are genuine and authentic, then we're going to do better. And I'm so blessed. I have some incredibly great teachers. I have an enlightened teacher. What a wonderful blessing for us to have those people here still. I encourage you to look at her work if you can. I sent an email out and many of you went over and purchased some of her things, and she was so excited. I can't tell you. She gave me a high five. She's like, this is amazing. I was like, I'm so glad to honor her work because it's changed my life. And it's what I base all of my work on. And Melanie has a great point. So yeah, I can speak to what Lucia would say. Melanie says, perhaps you're feeling a sense of responsibility to the various collective elements around you. Wouldn't Lucia say you need to let us go through our trials and tribulations unimpeded? Oh, certainly. Sure. And yeah, absolutely. That's part of it. I have a star lineage that is the oldest sibling type energy. So it tends to kind of feel like, and it's always been part of my personality to want to elevate humanity and to constantly be thinking about it. My savior complex is a lot less than it used to be, but or my desire to have some kind of management oversight power to help human beings evolve. But mainly lately it's been looking at my own evolution and trying to figure that out. So that's been another side of that, right? When you're focused so much on everyone else and that feeling responsible or trying to be available to humanity one way or another, then you lose track of your own self. And that's exactly what's happened. So you're quite right. There's a polarity there. And in the past few months, it's gotten very different because I haven't had the capacity to run that same savior energy at all, or to be the oldest big sister for humanity, even though I'm 40 years old. What an arrogant thing. Right? And it is, that kind of savior complex stuff is very arrogant, but it covers up my sense of inadequacy to help humanity, especially through things that I don't know how to help them through. But that's the point, isn't it? Elizabeth doesn't know. I don't know anything. Only the soul knows. So if we can work soul to soul, if we work together soul to soul, and we start to say, yeah, I need help too, which is where I'm at, then we balance it out and that savior complex can dismantle. So yes, you're right. And I think that's a smart way to look at it. And yeah, Lucia would absolutely say that. And it's hard because they do need help, and they are asking for help. But so do I need help too, and that's the answer in the end. Balance is everything in the polarity land. um Jocelyn says, what's the difference between using our intuition in daily lives with or for ourselves versus psychically seeing ourselves? Yeah, that's a good question. So when I say psychic seeing, I'm very literal. I mean, I psychically can't see myself, my situation, my household. It's too close to me. Here's the good metaphor. So we're all in a big circular room, right? We're all in equanimity. We're all in equanimity, technically. But we all do have our individual lives. And those individual lives are unique because you're a unique facet of source. So it's going to be unique. And that's kind of like a big poster on the wall, right? So maybe you're standing there and your big poster of your life is behind you. But every time you try to look at it, your face goes up against it like this. Now, you turn around and you look at everybody else, you can see their posters just fine. Psychically, you can see their posters fine, but good luck trying to see your own poster when your nose is up right against it. You can't see anything. It's all jumbled mess. Right? So instead of trying your hardest, like I have, to try to see your own stuff, good luck. It's not going to work. You got to turn around, and we do this in graceful equanimity. I ask for help to see where I'm at. It's very helpful to have an enlightened teacher because she's rooting for me, and she's not as distorted as I am, right? So I might be wearing glasses of trauma, and I try to set those aside when I do readings for you. So when I go out there and I do readings, I set my trauma stuff aside. I set my ego stuff aside. I assume that I know nothing. In a work setting, that's what I'm able to do now, but it took a long time to get there. Now, I can see other people's posters really clear, and psychically I can do that. And so can you. But when we're dealing with our own lives and you can't psychically see it, then we tend to have to use our heart and our gut. And they have the divine feeling and the divine knowing capability. And those are just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the psychic seeing skill set. So when you're navigating and you can't psychically see your own situation, what you've got to navigate on is feeling and your gut knowing. And that gut knowing is so informative because it's going to tell you about what's going to help you survive and what's not going to help you survive. So that's the difference. You do have to navigate your personal life every day, but if you can do it from the heart and the gut, you're going to feel more capable. And if you're asking for others people's insights, and to get lots of insight, you got to be balanced, because if you get too many perspectives, it'll be confusing. But if you get a few really good perspectives, people who really care about you, who are really rooting for you, then you're going to be able to navigate better in your own personal life on a daily basis from the heart and the gut. That's what I've found. And that's the difference between psychically seeing yourself versus everything else. The third eye is never going to be your sole answer for anything. Ever. Ever. I got into so much trouble just using my third eye. Without my heart and my gut, I would not be here. My third eye is not what I use to navigate at this point. Now it's a full body experience, and it equates to better readings for you too, because I'm feeling and using my divine knowing as well as my third eye to help you. So that's better. That's more evolution. That's more mastery. We got to embody all of this discernment. It's never going to be only seen. You got to see, feel, and know the truth. Good. So I hope that helps make some sense of it. Sylvia says, what is this thing you talk about that lasted 800,000 years and just ended? It's a cycle. So I'm talking about astrophysics here. Now we're getting into science stuff here. So we're at the end of several cycles in astrophysics. We're at the end of an 800,000 year cycle, which usually denotes in human evolution on this planet the beginning of a new human species. So 800,000 years ago, Homo erectus changed and evolved into Homo sapien. And so we've been Homo sapien for 800,000 years, but now it's time, according to the cycle's ending, now it's time for us to become something new. And that means that we're going through a big shift at a very grand global level. And it's a galactic change. It's a place in space. We're in a new place. We're in a new cycle. And so that's ended. But we're also at the end of a 1,500 year cycle, a 12,000 year cycle, and a 6,000 year cycle. So we're at the end of 4 different galactic astrophysics based cycles. Cycles that are measurable in geology, cycles that are perceived and known in the galaxy, in our solar system. And those endings, all of them at once, are a big deal. And with that, that means that we're going through this grand, huge pressure point that's going to change us. Just like when you put carbon through pressure, it becomes a diamond. Humanity is going to become their diamond version of themselves, Homo luminous. That's what I mean. Darina says, seems and sounds like lots of us can relate to having hard times asking for help and delegating these days. That results in a burnout, overwhelm, and dis-ease. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Joe says, I was listening to old music, the song No Way to Treat a Lady. The first thing that came up was to dedicate that to Gaia. Yeah, and that's going to be very interesting as we enter into this new version of ourselves. How's that relationship with the earth, which was there all along, going to affect the way we speak to each other? If your Gaia mother is there the whole time looking at you, are we really going to treat one another the same? I don't think we will. And that's what part of New Culture, New Earth, New Human is all about. Darina asks, and Haman, I hear your question. Let me see if I can fit it in, because it's a little different than Haman's asking about the white dwarf affecting Bardos. So a very mystical question. Possibly regarding the last class series we did, the Spheres of Influence and Wisdom, which was very esoteric stuff. Darina asks, any insights as to how to find the balance of living interconnectedly and create the healthy boundaries, but about being independent and sovereign, to living and being open to receive the help and support we need? Boy, I don't know. I'm still working on it. Maybe in our next call, I'll put that as in my intentions. Ask me again next month, okay? We're at the end of this one, actually, because I'm gonna do I intend to do our call at the end of April too. But I don't know. I think it's all changing so much, so it's up in the air. I think that's something we're healing. So I'll keep pondering it. I'll chew on it and think about it. Multiple people saying, including Milena, it definitely feels like I don't know what I'm doing. Thanks for reassuring that the feeling is justified. Yeah. Yep. I tell people, my friends here in Ecuador, I say, I know I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but the truth is I really don't know. And so eventually I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. All I can do is speak to the journey. That's what I'm good at. So I'll just keep speaking from that. But I'm willing to say I don't know when I don't know at this point. Um, Melanie says, Elizabeth, it feels like there's a being or energy in your third eye. The light coming from there is huge. Maybe it's just you transmitting something. I'm just getting more clear, Melanie. I'm getting more clear about my ego. I'm getting more clear about my trauma. I'm getting more clear. I'm wearing less lenses. And I've endeavored to do that. I set all my lenses out and said, Source, take all of them. If I can just see light, see the truth, that's what I want to reveal. That's what I want with all my heart. And just be able to speak from there. So the beingness is probably just, I think, my soul. Because I'm just going to keep trying to be more that and less Elizabeth. That's the goal. Marty says, are you witnessing reversal currents or inversion programs in the field? If so, any practice to manage this to maintain a 0 point? You know, Marty, maybe not so much that, but more like more this like when we have breakthroughs, and I think everyone is having some major breakthroughs the past year, and especially in the past few months. I can't even possibly imagine what all of you have been through. But those breakthroughs, they do have a powerful burst of power, and then it comes back. So all we need to do is just recognize that that's built into the physics of consciousness. And so when something comes back at you to test your field to see, did you really get this breakthrough? Did you really embody that dimension? How strong are you in this? How strong are you in this not knowing, this willingness to take your lenses off? Are you sure? When that comes back at us, it can feel like really overwhelming and powerful, because it's the same amount of energy that you just released, and it's coming back at you to test the field. If we can trust that as part of the physics of consciousness, then you can use it, and you can assume that it's going to affect the people around you because they're in the field with you. So that wave's going to come through for them too. So every time I have a breakthrough, whether I tell my husband or not, he's going to go through something. And it's going to be in a certain period of time. Before, it used to be like within a month, and then it was within a week. And now it's in a matter of like days or maybe even hours. So as you keep getting deeper into your breakthroughs, it's going to happen faster. And it affects people around you. It challenges where you're at. If you can just trust that and use it instead of feeling intimidated by that, that's how I would approach it. That seems like the way we can keep recognizing, all right, this, where my new feeling of awesome breakthrough is going to be tested, so I can keep standing in my power, finding that neutrality, divine neutral is your 0 point. Divine neutral is a superpower. And that's how we're going to be able to work from there, I think. Ariana asks, what is different about the Earth experience versus other separation and wars in the universes? Well, I can't speak about other universes, really, because I don't have any memory of that. But I have memory of this universe. And it depends on where you're at physically, because this universe actually does have a shape to it. And where the Earth is at is actually at the heart. So that's why it's all about heart. It's all about feeling your way through reality. It's why the emotional body is your best tool for processing any trauma. You need to feel every energy fully that's coming your way. It's a big library of frequencies and feelings, and each of them are valid and important and must be understood as part of the whole. So while I can't speak about other universes, I can tell you where the Earth is at and why the opening of the heart is our best chance at success in consciousness here. Marion says, I'm finding that the power of encouragement is a tremendous gift we give each other, especially now that the wisdom of the heart is being called forward. Perfect. I love that. And it kind of complements what we were just looking at about the fact that we're in the heart space of the universe too. So that makes sense. And yeah, I love to be a cheerleader for humanity. It's a better role than savior, than big sister. Nobody needs a big sister. Y'all have your own stuff like that. It's better to be encouraging of everyone's journey with great respect and dignity. Kathy has a great question since we're talking about the heart. She says, I have a hard time just feeling anything in the heart. Do you have any pointers? Well, yeah, because I've tried really hard to open my heart and I tried lots of random stuff. I even got a tattoo on my heart chakra. It's my only tattoo. In my desperate attempt at 25 to open my heart, I got a tattoo. It didn't work. And now I have a tattoo. So, how do you open your heart? Well, you know what it was? I had to get down to the bottom of when exactly did I shut my heart down. And it's usually early childhood. So you got to find your little self. You got to find little Kathy. There's a little Kathy who shut her heart down because you weren't born like that. Because she was scared. So for me, I was 4 and I could feel and psychically see Chernobyl happening when I was living in Germany with my family. And it hurt so bad physically that I shut my heart down, and I would have shut my third eye down, but I have no choice. I have to keep my third eye open. It's kind of glued open. So I couldn't shut my third eye, but I could shut my heart down because it was so painful. I didn't understand what I was feeling. It was too immense for me. I was so small. So I had to go back, and my heart actually opened really fully when that Chernobyl TV series came out, and I didn't even watch it. I watched clips of it, and I had major PTSD, like panic attacks, just watching clips of it. And then I was like, this is it. This is the thing. This is the linchpin. This was the moment where I shut my heart down. So I had to go sit with my 4-year-old self in my subconscious and be like, all right, we got to go through this without shutting the heart down. We got to re-experience this. And it sucked, but it was so powerful. And then I was in this really awkward place because then I could feel everything, but I can psychically see really well. So I'd been depending on that the whole time. So I had to sync them up. And that was actually harder to sync up my third eye and my open heart than it was to open my heart. It was really hard. So I figured out, and some people need to sync their heart up with their gut first. For me, it was definitely the heart and the third eye. But I figured out through breathing, through white noise and white light, and just breathing that white energy, getting all that white light synced up into my 3 minds, my brain, my heart, and my gut. I was able to balance it because I needed to get to some place where we weren't trying to feel stuff. We weren't trying to see stuff. We weren't being asked to do anything. And that's how you sync up your 3 minds. You got to find just something like a white noise, white light energy that's really, really neutral, that doesn't require you to have to feel or see or know anything. And then you sit in that, and it syncs everybody up. And that was really awesome to finally get all that synced up. So now I have an open third eye, heart, and gut. But you got to find that linchpin. When did you get so scared, or when did you get so traumatized? But you had to shut that down so you wouldn't have feelings anymore. And it could have been something really straightforward, maybe not so dramatic as Chernobyl or a war or something. Maybe it's that moment where your mom or your dad yelled at you so bad, and before that they'd never yelled at you quite like that, so you lost trust because it hurt so bad and you shut your heart down. It really could be that simple but powerful of a moment. So ask your subconscious, ask that little version of you in your subconscious, hey, can you help me? Can you help me see this? And they will, because they really want it too. And we're not meant to live forever with our hearts shut down. It might have got us through a lot of stuff. And so that's okay. It did for me. But I also had to go back and recapitulate stuff again in my body because I had been so shut down. So you can't just do stuff with your mind. You do have to do it in the body, and that's part of the heart piece. I hope that helps as a method. In my description to you, I have a couple of things. I have a link to a document full of a bunch of tools for you, Kathy, and one of them is the Healing the Three Minds ebook. And there's others, but that's going to help too. So in the description of our video, that's there for you. And if you miss it for some reason, just email me, or go through my contact page on my website. My email is elizabeth@seerandscientist, or my .com, or my website seerandscientist.com. Either way, if you want that document of healing resources to help you open your heart and other things, get the three minds really healed, clean up your lineage, what meditation techniques to really use for more effectiveness, all that's there for you. And if you need it and you don't get it here, just email me and we're happy to send it your way. Because opening the heart is the name of the game right now, right? We're kind of seeing that, I think. Oh, the other gift I have is a coupon code, though somebody said it wasn't working very well, so I'm going to fix that. Any purchases for April, any of them, anything in my store, 18% off. You might be like, why'd you pick 18? 1 + 8 is 9, and 9 is my favorite number, and it's really magical, and 9 is special. 9 is proof that source God exists in my mind. So that's why. But I felt like I really wanted to give you something. You've waited for 3 months for this call. And so this is my love to you. Just whatever you need. And now the 6-part class is available as a complete package. You can use it on that too. You can use it for anything. My offerings in the store. So let me make sure that coupon code's working for you. And by sometime today and the rest of April, you can take anything 18% off. So for April, that's my gift to you. Very good. Jillian says, aha, I'm understanding all that save your eldest big family stuff at 60. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's big. I'm so glad, Christy, that you enjoyed Lucia's work. Christy's thanking me for letting her know about Lucia's work, and it's very powerful. And if you like my style of stuff, you'll like Lucia. We're very different skills, and I'm not enlightened, but she is. So there's certain things, especially empowerment, and some really cool pieces around mysticism that I would definitely say you're going to want to learn from her one way or another. Alice says, it's really true to have good teachers and reach out for help. Recently, I've been looking and searching for trustworthy person, a shaman, some facilitator for psychedelic experiences. Any recommendations? Well, honestly, if you're really in for something like that, I would come to South America. If you want to utilize the communions of the earth, this is the place to do it. And somewhere here, like Vilcabamba, there's some really excellent people who facilitate this, and they do very good due diligence. You don't just show up and end up in the experience. They get your full health history. They get you through emotional processing skills. They give you tools. They walk you through stuff beforehand. They prepare you through diet to do it well. And then they get you through these experiences. So there are facilities here with people that I would trust and friends of mine who've gone and done those things. And that's who I would turn to. And I can't remember the name of the facility, but it's here just outside of Vilcabamba, Ecuador, in southern Ecuador. And I think it starts with something about the sun. So if you look that up there and you're not really sure, and maybe you find more than one thing, email me and I'll point you in the right direction for facilitators like that. I don't know any in the US. I just know the people here, and that's who I would trust because those plant medicines are from here. So that's where I am at with that. Though I'm sure there's great practitioners in the north. I just don't know them. So Sarah, who's been going through some tough stuff, she says, my chaos has gone from 4 to 20. The healing needed is immense. I was pretty settled till I tried to resume some normal life after the hospital. I've been wanting to start a healing circle for you. But Sarah, you need that too. And we all do. We all kind of need a healing circle, right? All of us do. And Sarah's got really messed up physically. And that's such a really hard thing to do, especially when you're the one helping people, right, Sarah? When you're the one who's usually there and then you get taken out. It's really hard. So we all need healing circles. I wish I could facilitate something like that. But I feel that with our intention, just even being on this call together, that's something. That's a good start. So why don't at the end of our call today, we do a healing circle for all of us and include ourselves in that prayerful healing. So I'll guide you in something towards the end today for all of us, because we all need it. We all need it. We need that nourishment, that strength to keep up our stamina. Very good. AA is asking me, has your website the same content as your app? No, I don't really use an app. So the website is what it is. But closeness, I understand that. AA says I like even more closeness. Yeah, I get that for sure. These are the best I can do for the closeness piece besides one-on-one work. And community calls are really important to me. I found them to be so special and powerful. It's a great way to just be together in equanimity. I don't feel more important than you, and I'm not. I just feel like I'm with friends and that we're talking from the heart. Even though I'm leading the call, I'm trying to speak to you the exact same way I would speak to my friends and family. That's how I feel about all of us. Kimberly says, it feels like I'm wearing a bodysuit of bitterness and rage. I have my own personal story, but as an empath, I must be feeling the bitterness of humanity too rising up. I think so. And if it feels like a suit, then it's what we might call like a trauma lens, Kimberly. So, we're wearing our trauma and then we see the world through the trauma. So we got to get to know bitterness and rage then. It's showing up. And bitterness and rage are very powerful tools. They're very, very powerful energies, and they have a lot of capability. So when we see them that way, then we don't resist it so much because they're asking you to get to know it. Get to know it without hating it. Get to know it without disliking it and resisting it. Sit with it. Sit with the bitterness and say, well, where are you from? Where do you live? Where do you come from? What are you all about? If you get curious about these, what feel like really painful, challenging energies, you're going to find the truth, which is that they're just frequency and that they're full of information. And then you get to the bottom of it. It's kind of like checking out a book from the library called Bitterness or Rage. And as you get through the book, you're like, gosh, I don't know if I like this book. And then finally you get to the end. That's where all the solutions come up. And that's where you're at. If you're noticing it in your field that much, then you're really close to the end of the book. And you got to be willing to go and really open up and accept bitterness and rage. If we keep denying that and walking away from those frequencies and saying, I don't want you, well, you're still carrying the backpack with the book of bitterness that you checked out because you needed to check it out one way or another. And you're going to end up still having it. So if you want to be done with it, you got to get through the book. And we do that with curiosity and recognizing this is a frequency. It can't hurt me. It can't hurt me. It can't hurt you. It can't hurt your soul. It can only inform you. That's how I approach these sort of things. So if something pops up and I'm like, wow, right now I really want to run from this, but I know better because it's just going to come back. I'm going to come back to it eventually and it could get worse. So I don't want that. So I got to sit with this energy called bitterness, this frequency called rage. What are you all about? Get to that sort of inquiry. Get curious about it. And it won't feel like you're being tortured as much. And you'll find the linchpins in yourself. You'll find the pieces inside of you. And then the bitterness comes and goes because it doesn't then remain in your field like a bodysuit or a torture suit. The bitterness can come and go. The rage can come and go because there's no resistance in you trying to draw it in anymore. It just moves through and does its own thing. And then the collective, send that stuff on its way. If you're feeling the collective and you're an empath, and this is what I've taught in the empaths and entities class, but if you're feeling the collective, it's because your outer field as an empath is picking stuff up. But when you keep identifying it, it stops it in its tracks, so it hangs out in your field. That's not what your job is as an empath. Your job is to send it on its way. So do a heart command around it. And do it as many times as you have to. Dear heart, lift anything that is not mine out of my body and field now. And you take a big, deep breath. And you can hone in and say, any bitterness and rage that doesn't belong to me, I give you permission to move through the outer field. The empath's outer field is a superhighway of energy. You're picking energy up so that it can move. You're tossing it up energetically. It's a highway. It needs to move. It can't stay stationary. If you try to make sense of it or identify it as an empath, it backs up. And then you literally have a train wreck of energy in your field waiting for you to let it give it permission for it to go. So send it on its way. Say, hey, whatever you guys are, I don't need to know. Just use the field. That's what you're here to do. Let the outer field do its thing. And your inner field, whatever is yours, will remain. So whatever your personal bitterness and rage is, it will remain as an empath. And then you can work from there. But the outer field, let that keep moving. Let that keep flowing. If it starts feeling like it's going to crush you, give it permission to move. Turn the green light on so it can keep going. And you'll start to feel better. And that your task is much smaller because it's than only your stuff that you need to deal with. So I hope that helps. Natalia is asking me, what are your thoughts about Heaven's Cross? Adamas Saint Germain talked about. I have no idea. I study astrophysics, so not so much astrology, though there's a really good person who would probably be able to answer this better for you, Natalia. His name is Robert Powell, and he is the world's best. He's not really an astrologer so much. I'd almost call him like a mystical cartographer of the stars. He's really cool, and he can tell you about like events and all sorts of stuff and how the stuff in the sky affects consciousness way better than me. I just know the astrophysics. So I apologize, but I'm going to send you to somebody who knows. Robert Powell. See if you can find his stuff. I think he talks about Sophia, the universe. He's really interesting. I've gone to one of his talks. He actually lives here in southern Ecuador, which is why I know who he is. But he's quite famous. He's written like a bunch of books. He's incredibly smart. So he's a master at that kind of stuff. I really couldn't answer you. I apologize. Lisa says, any suggestions on assisting the elderly? My mom does not want to let go and get help. She's 94 and can still drive, but should not. Her programming of being a strong, independent woman. You know, Lisa, when I've asked myself, you know, how can I serve my parents best, or how can I serve my elders best? What usually comes up is that if there's some program that I'm seeing that's really irking me, like your mom being an independent woman, 94, not willing to ask for help, that programming is in me too. So if I dismantle the program in me, what does it do? Well, you're close to your mom. So that energy goes out and bounces back. And because she's in your field, it's going to affect her. So if you work on anything that you see in someone else, if you work on it in yourself first, it's going to have a ripple effect. You can't determine exactly how it's going to affect them. But one of the things that happens is that then they start to see it in themselves because you were willing to see it in yourself. So whatever you want in someone else or for someone else or to support someone else, do it inside yourself first. And then wait and let it have its work. Let it do its work. Let it do its work in consciousness. Anything you want outside of you, it's not outside of you. That's the secret. So do it inside of yourself. Work on also our desires for outcome, right? So we desire for outcomes for our friends, for our family, for our elders. We have desires for their outcomes. And they do too. Sometimes they're aligned and sometimes they're not. Like right now, your mom's desire for outcome is not aligned with yours. So work on yours first. Work on dismantling your attachments to her outcomes. And then watch what happens. And just be quiet about it. Don't be demanding of her attention on her issues. She will see them in due time. It's all about mystical timing. That's what I've discovered over the past decade. If you really want something, you got to work on it in you. If you want something for someone else, work on it in you, get neutral. Dismantle your desires for outcomes for other people, no matter how good-willed it might be. Work on it in yourself first, and you'll see changes happen. They might not be what you expect because source is much more creative than we are. So that energy is going to be very powerful, whatever it is. Don't assume that you're going to know. wait for the surprise. And it can be very beautiful. It can be very powerful. It can also be painful, but their breakthroughs are yours too. And your breakthroughs help the whole world. That wave goes far beyond us into the collective. Sarah says, I'm clear there is a big change needed. I've asked the divine and psychic friends. One said, you must step into your power. That's why you got this big bonk. She was hit by a car. So I'm craving clarity. Yeah, especially if you get, your legs and hips, and it's all about standing, right? It's all about balance and being in your power. That seems true. I feel it's also something for all of us to be standing in our power. And that's exactly what my teacher teaches, standing in your power. How do you do that? Well, what I've learned from her, something to start with, is to recognize that to stand in your power is to be truly yourself, truly authentic, truly genuine, and humble. Not to think of yourself as less than or more important than anything, but in equanimity. And to endeavor to try to be that essence that Source chose for you. And trust that. And keep going back to your soul to run the show versus your personal self. That's a good start and much easier said than done. Marion said, I was just visited by something I thought I had healed and found that I needed to face greater depths of understanding. Oh my gosh. So my teacher, Lucia, and I will talk about stuff a lot, and I'll say something. She'll say something like, I feel like I'm finally to the bottom of it. And then, I don't know, some time will pass and she'll be like, never mind. There was another layer. And so recently I said, I feel like I'm finally done. And she's like, no. Never say that. So like, never say that. Never say you're finally done. You're never done. The minute you think that you're finally done, you're going to get your butt kicked. So she's like, never say never, just stop. I was like, okay. And I've watched her. She'll be like, I finally got to it. I'm at the bottom. Oh, never mind. And over for years. So I think it's so powerful to just recognize, well, I feel like I got a big breakthrough. I'm going to celebrate that. Have no idea if I'm at the bottom of it or not, but that's okay. And just keep that attitude. Interesting question. Avea says, I'm wondering about physically navigating solar flares or 5G, two very different frequencies. When the body feels under pressure or detoxes suddenly. Yeah, we're here on the equator, so when we get solar flares, my whole family gets headaches. I like to approach this kind of stuff with the 4 quadrants in mind. So mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. And that's how I try to cover things. So I say, all right, well, what do I mentally need right now? Well, when we go through solar flares or you're getting bombarded by frequencies that are new or sudden, it usually affects the brain first because it's, especially from the sun, it's coming down on you. So that needs to be taken into account. And the brain needs a lot of good fats, especially animal fats, and not seed oils, but really good fats. So if you're not eating animal proteins or animal fats, leaning towards avocado and olive for those fats is good. But I think that having animal fats is better. So ghee or butter is a good bet. Your brain really needs that. You need to have a fat barrier. And most of us don't have a good enough one between your brain and your skull. We don't have enough. We need that cholesterol. This whole low cholesterol thing, I think, is absolutely crazy. And that people's bodies are trying to overcompensate for the low cholesterol by actually trying to hang on to cholesterol however they can get it. And it's starving the brain. It's causing like a brain diabetes, which is what I believe Parkinson's and Alzheimer's are. I'm not a doctor, of course, but this is from my scientific reading that I've been looking at, especially over human wellness. But we do know the brain really needs fats. Furthermore, your brain is full of water, so it's very electromagnetic and it's a conductor, just like the rest of your body. So you need a lot of water buffer, and most of us are chronically dehydrated. It's like one of the number one issues on the freaking planet. So not enough fats, not enough water. Creating that barrier between your skull and your brain is going to help your mental stability. Emotional, you need to be able to know how to do emotional processing. You need to be able to welcome emotional stuff and be able to move through it properly. That's what that document is in the description for you. It's how to do that. How do you do that? How do you cover that part, right? And physically too, your brain needs to detox, and the only time your brain can detox is through good sleep. Getting some really good sleep stuff. I really like Cliff High's sleep aid stuff called Pure Sleep. It's very good. But there's other things like just taking natural supplements, not melatonin. Melatonin is hormonal therapy. If you take melatonin, your body's not going to make it as easily. You need your body to make melatonin. One of the best ways to do that is actually at the very beginning of the day, making sure within the first 10 minutes of you waking up, having enough sunlight or natural light through your eyes. Even if it's overcast, you've got to have that natural light. If you have enough sunlight at the very beginning of your day, then your body's going to naturally make more melatonin later. So sunlight at the beginning of the day, ironically, is your ticket to better sleep. And sleep is the only time the brain can detox. And then more physical support, making sure you're barefoot on the earth, peeps. You're an electromagnetic circuit. You're mostly water. So when you wear shoes and drive around in a car and stand in your house, you're not grounded. You're not connected electromagnetically to the earth circuit. You've got to get barefoot. I know that it's cold in the north, but seriously, keep considering yourself an electromagnetic circuit. Get as barefoot as you can on that earth. The best that you can, as often as possible. It does relieve a huge amount of buildup. Most of us build up a huge amount of electrical energetics and static in the body. No wonder everyone has nervous breakdowns and can't sleep. You need to discharge it. Another way I like to do is hug trees. Even better, be barefoot and hug a tree and be a hippie for a minute every day. Spend just like 5 minutes doing it. I swear to you, it's going to make you feel so different. That excess electromagnetic buildup just gets discharged. Trees love that stuff. They're like big, huge discharging towers. I would go put my head up against a tree and it would just suck all the energy out of my body. That was excess. It was great. It was super cool. It was like a vacuum. Try it. I'm not even that sensitive physically, so if it works for me, it's certainly going to work for others. Another thing is Epsom salt baths. That helps too. Because then you get more magnesium into the system, and water is good at discharging excess electricity. And when there's salt in the bathtub, it's able to discharge more electrical because your nervous system is built of sodium, potassium, and magnesium gates, basically. Sodium, potassium gates mitigated by magnesium. So that's really key. And then spiritual. Well, what are solar flares but big bursts of extra light? Right? So if we can start using that, hopefully by being open to it, and there's going to be more and a lot more energy. Our electromagnetic field is disappearing. It's 30% gone. It's exponentially disappearing. We're going to get a lot more. And in the next decade, there's a super wave, a galactic wave of photons that exploded 26,000 years ago. And in the next decade, guess where it's heading? Just to us. And our field is going to be so low, 40 or 50% gone. What's that light going to do to us? Help us evolve. That's only ever what any of these events are for. And they happen every 12,000 years. Now, that 26,000 year galactic superwave has never happened. But that's what this whole Homo luminous thing is all about. That makes sense. We've been told about this stuff energetically and through prophecy and through ancient text, and here we are. We are here in it now. So the more we can absorb it, the more hydrated, the more good fats we have in our body to mitigate these things, the better. And resting as much as you can. It's so important to rest. I've underestimated. I'm a workaholic. And I've realized, oh my gosh, I gotta balance this out. And the only balance is resting, which is still a verb. Resting is still doing. Resting is a verb. So I keep telling myself that. Good. But that's a great question. Thank you. 5G, that one's tough. Avoiding it the best that you can. Stay hydrated. And then creating a place of detox with all of that the best that you can. We're doing the best we can. And I'm sure others have just as good or better solutions than I do. But this is what I notice and what my family's dealing with. And meanwhile, we're also getting a lot more radiation and new types of radiation from the sun and the solar system in general, the galaxy in general. So make sure you're taking iodine, everybody. Iodine is so powerful. It's got so many amazing qualities to it. Take iodine. Iodine's going to help you out with the detox, even of 5G. Melanie says, seeing more high vibe people, my cousin, 20 years old, had to call in for backup to help me upgrade my vibe. To even work with her energy, I received healing from a high vibe collective that she must work with. That's special. How nice to have a cousin that is supportive like that. Marion says, allowing oneself to enter fully into grief is a tremendous heart opener because we only grieve that which we truly love. Yeah, for sure. I would say that was definitely part of my experience too with the Chernobyl piece. It was really grief in the end. It was grief, terrible grief. You're right. It's super key. Good. Sylvia says, I'm loving the new candor. The authentic, vulnerable, even if she says, I don't know. Yeah, well, there's more and more of that. And me too. I was going through a lot of stuff this morning. My eyes are a little puffy, actually, because I've been crying. I've been crying all morning. It's been rough. And a lot's coming up, but there's so much healing to have. And just being able to be in those feelings. I'm just so grateful that I can even be sad or cry or grieve or be angry. I can tell you I had most of my life avoided that. We can't do that. The full spectrum of energy is available in this formless realm. It's there. It needs to be appreciated and respected. AA says, about 30 years ago, Sananda and or Yeshua, I don't know if they're the same or not, said to me in the response to my question, relax, dear little sister, everything's already fulfilled. I like that, but I also kind of have like a you got to pray and row the boat at the same time energetic. So I do feel that we are here to continue in our free will and make choices and navigate, and that nothing's guaranteed. So the future is not put in place. There are sometimes inevitabilities, but it's up to us to create it. And that's why being present is always so key. So I do feel that we're held. I do feel that source holds us at all times, and that we're all headed home, and we're all on the same journey. All the evil people, all the good people, all the planets, all the stars, all of our star families, all the galaxies, we're all headed to the same place. We're all going home to source from which we came. And that is the grand fulfillment. And we're all in it together in equanimity. Ariana says, I had a traumatic experience where I felt myself separated from the home and environment around me at 8 years old. Before that, I felt one with everything. Is that the closing of the heart? I'm not sure, but if you sit with it and you talk to that version of yourself, she's still he or she is still in the subconscious. So intend it. Ask that. Ask your subconscious. All right, hey, I want to get to the bottom of this. When did I close my heart? I really just want to feel it. You might not know it. You might not remember it very well. But that little version of you somewhere is down there waiting for you to be ready to talk to them about this, right? So just be willing, and it'll arise in divine timing. Be patient, be willing. It will show up, that moment that you need to know about. And it could and probably will come at a very awkward time, like while you're in the middle of the grocery store. So that definitely has happened to me before, where I'm like, it dawns on me, oh my goodness, that's what I need to look at. And of course, I'm in an awkward place and can't look at it right that minute because I got to go check out or whatever. But of course, usually in consciousness, it's going to be some awkward moment where you're like at a dinner party and then you have a breakthrough. You're like, oh boy. So just be prepared for divine timing to show up. There's always a reason. Sasha's asking me, did you get to do any courses on walk-in souls? No, that hasn't been a priority for me. This past series of 6 classes has been about the esoteric nature of reality. So I've been discussing natural law, mystical law, and galactic law, which is very, very deep mysticism. And it's been very exciting stuff. And it may actually answer some of your stuff around walk-in pieces, but walk-in stuff, that'll probably come eventually. Next, I'm probably going to teach sometime later in the month about real manifestation, because most of us don't do real manifestation. And we wouldn't even use that word. That's not the right word anyway. So I'm going to teach about that this month. That's something I'm passionate about. And then others have asked me to discuss different beings, different families from which we come, because a lot of us are starting to remember things, and that's coming to play because we need to remember. And those tools and those experiences, along with your life now, are all coming to play now. We need to recapitulate a lot in order to move forward into becoming the new species, the Homo luminous. Christy says, my heart shut down as a child due to my dysfunctional parents. I'll do what you're recommending to find the linchpin moment and process it. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that that's a useful path. It has been for me too. Kathy says, makes sense I may have closed many times. The first time was witnessing a relative having a nervous breakdown. Gosh, I sure would have found that to be terrifying too, especially as an empath, right? Kimberly says, with so many people taking their lives now, what's the main thing we say to somebody who is suicidal? Yeah, I think most of the time people who are suicidal, they really feel overwhelmed by their sense of separation from source. So each person's unique in that, but that's the key reason why people feel suicidal. And I've had the same experience. I've been very, very suicidal most of my teens and 20s. And so, the way I would describe it is that I felt separate from God. And in that place, that person doesn't necessarily believe that they're connected to God or that they're special or important enough or that they have an effect on the world. And meanwhile, they're being brainwashed and bombarded by a lot of programs that want them to kill themselves. The human hate program, for example, that says crazy things that aren't true, like that humans cause climate change when we're literally in a 12,000 year cycle and the sun is the one who controls climate, not carbon. Um, you know, or that there's too many humans on the planet, or these sorts of things that when you actually learn the real facts and the real data, it's not true. And things like that the earth hates us, or there's real strange stuff that gets said out there that I connect to what we just call the human hate program. So people end up buying into that and then hating themselves and everyone else, and they're so traumatized and they're so hurt, and a lot of times they're addicted to stuff and they can't get out of it. So each person like that is unique, but my best answer to you is ask source God directly. How can I help this person feel that they are connected to source, that they are of source? What is the thing that I can say or do right now that can help them? And then get out of the way. Let the soul speak. We as personal people don't know the answer, but the soul does, because the soul comes from source. You're an emissary of source God direct. Ask the source. Ask source God, what can I say or do right now? And get out of the way. It's all going to be unique to the person. But we as personal people, we don't know. The soul knows. And every time that's happened, it's always been different. So I don't have a general answer. It's going to be unique to the person in the situation. But if you're willing to speak as the soul, the emissary of source God direct, then some powerful stuff's going to come up. And that connection to your soul, from soul to soul, is going to help remind them, you are not this body. You are not this personal self. You are also an emissary of source. You're going through this. That's true. And validate their feelings. Listen to them. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to do anything unless they ask. But sometimes they need that moment of you speaking as a soul and giving them that clarity that they are part of source just like you. Help them reconnect to that. That's my best answer to that. B. Austin says current Earth and new Earth are polarities. Do I harmonize them, live in both of them, or move into new Earth, since current Earth would no longer exist? I think it's a little awkward and tricky, because I've heard some pretty interesting theories, like that there's going to be these two Earths, and that's not really how dimensions work. So I don't think it's us moving away from something anymore. I think it's here now, first off. I don't think it's the future tense. I think it's here now. It's kind of like how I describe dimensions. Dimensions aren't higher or better. They're just expansive. So they're all a big open floor plan. And that's kind of what's happening right now. I don't think you have to do anything. I think you just have to hang out with Earth today. Don't worry about the future Earth. Just hang out with what she has available today. And we don't need to differentiate old Earth, new Earth, really, because we don't really need to differentiate, oh, what dimension are we in? Well, you have access to all 12 dimensions. You're a human being. That's what your body does. It's one of the functions of being human. It's having all access to all dimensions at once, but it's an open floor plan, not a ladder. And right now, the Earth is like really ninth dimensional, but it doesn't mean she left the others behind. We're still physical here. We still have the 3D and the first dimension and the second dimension and the fourth, and they're all here. They're all here. So just hang out with what's available now, which is 9 dimensions of earthliness, Gaia-ness. Gaia is embodied 9 dimensions. So she's got this open floor plan for 9 dimensions available. She hasn't left the 3D behind, and neither have you. We just open more. So that's kind of how I see it. I don't think you need to do any work on this one. Just enjoy what's available right now. Maria says, I found that the trauma experience does not have to be fully re-experienced, but rather the merciful embrace and acceptance of the child, breathing and comforting and breathing again. I like that. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you have to go into the full like memory of an experience. You just need to, and this is what Lucia has taught, you need to find the frequency of the thing. You got to have some mercy on the frequency, the energy, the feeling. You got to welcome the feeling. You got to be with that. You don't need to remember the exact memories. You don't need precise timeline stuff. The brain's terrible at that anyway. The heart remembers. That's your seat of body memory anyway. So we don't have to be re-traumatized by going through stuff. I found that to be true because I went to a lot of therapists when I was younger. I had really bad PTSD. And I went to 14 different therapists and medical doctors who told me they couldn't help me until the last guy. And he said, I don't really know what you need, but I'm not going to give up on you. And it really was just that we needed to look objectively at things, and then I could practice tools in real time. And eventually it was like, yeah, I actually don't need to go through my precise exact timeline. I just need to know what the feelings are that I'm having and go with that. And that's what I found to be true too. Oh yeah, so Sarah says she likes to definitely Sarah says she likes to ground as well and also put her hands in the dirt. Very good way to ground as well. So your hands, of course, are that conduit piece as well. Christy's asking, grounding mat, would that help? Yeah, I've heard people say that helps. I don't know personally, but I've heard others say that. So I hope that is useful to you. Songbird says, you'd mentioned that you were working on a prototype device for clearing energy on the land for growing food. How's that coming along? Awesome. Good question. Now, it's not exactly for clearing energy at all. It's actually to create an extra electromagnetic field that would help the plants and microbiome grow. And it's stalled as a project because I've been not physically capable of doing it. And I've focused more on alternative currencies and alternative economic systems lately because that's been what's on the table. So I'm sorry to say that particular experiment hasn't been going ahead very quickly. The design is still there. At some point, if I'm confident enough with any experiments in the future, I'll release the design as open source and you can play with it. But as the electromagnetic field disappears, some plants don't grow as well, others do. So it just depends on the plant. Every plant is different. So we're talking about food and the microbiome and trying to protect the microbiome, because the microbiome's being bombarded by radiation just like us, and it's disappearing pretty quickly. All right, so my chat has disconnected and I'm not really sure why. So if you can still hear me, you're not able to do the chat part. So I'm not really sure why the chat disconnected. I apologize. But that being said, it might be. Okay, I think it's back on. All right, the chat's back on. And sorry if my internet blinked out for a sec. I'm back. All right, we've got a couple more things to cover here. Cha, I think is how you pronounce it. Cha is asking about generational healing, especially around spirits who try to possess you. Those sound like two different things to me, Cha. That sounds like demonic stuff and generational stuff that might be attracting demonic stuff. In the description, that link to that document at the bottom of it is a way to heal the genetic lineage. And then Cha, if you need help with demonic stuff, email me and I'll send you, any of you, for free, my empaths and entities class, where I train you how to deal with entities in a way that is not going to put you at battle, because you don't want to start that war. Been there. You don't want to get stuck in that. But a lot of times the generational lineage piece can attract it, right? Because we sometimes inherit demonic bondage. It's a very real thing. That sounds like what you're talking about. So if you do the genetic lineage cleanup over this next year and you're really diligent about that, and then you learn how to deal with entities as well, I think that'll cover your needs, because it sounds like you're going through a lot. That sucks. But this is powerful healing that can be done. Billy says, it's sometimes hard to get out of my soul's way. Any suggestions? Gosh, I would say I'm still learning. So, well, whatever can keep you humble, man. Intend it. Just put an intention. Sometimes everybody's so different and unique. You're a unique frequency in the universe. Everyone's so unique. You need to be able to intend things and then let it work on your field. That's how I would go about it. That's what I did at the beginning of the year. And I said something really big, like, I intend to get to the bottom of all my illusions and my fear. Oh boy, that was a big ask. And literally it's been 3 months of it straight without a break. So be careful what you ask for. But I think that's a pretty decent ask. Source, show me how I can get out of my own soul's way. And then wait and see what happens. Source has every intention to help you do that. Good. B. Austin says, thank you for addressing my question. I have much comfort and inspiration. That's awesome. I'm so glad. And Darina is also talking about alternative currencies. Yeah, so yeah, I do have an update on that. We've been working for 9 months on this as a committee and a council, and it's been very powerful. And I gotta say that two things. We can't replace the system because the system is so broken, first off. Second, trying to hybridize, trying to make something that's both digital and physical isn't going to work. We have been trying to hybridize a lot all at once. So we've been trying to create something unique. We've been trying to create a digital that's also physical currency that also is linked to the valuation of time, and that could also support some kind of trade system too. And it was too much. We tried to hybridize stuff too much. And then we kind of got down to something digital and physical, and we realized, especially where we live, most of the people here are the Ecuadorians. They're not wealthy. They make maximum $3 an hour. That's the minimum wage here. They don't have the money to afford smartphones. Digital is not going to work for them. Cash is king in Ecuador. So we've realized we got to split off into two, and one group doing the digital piece for whatever means and reasons they will, and then one group doing physical, linking it to some kind of unit of value. You can't just have a currency that's backed by nothing. That's literally what the system was that we're trying to get out of. So in a nutshell, back your stuff by something. It could be backed by a collective of store owners. It could be backed by food. It could be backed by time. Back it by something. If it's not going to be backed by gold, silver, or land, then back it by something. And time was what we thought was going to work best. But I think we're going to end up doing first a collective of growers, organic food growers and vendors. That's what we're going to start with. And start small. Don't try to go too big. We really failed at trying to go too big. So we're doing small first. And I feel more grounded in what we're doing now. So yeah, once we get something going and the experiments start working well and we iron out anything weird, I will absolutely report to you what works so you can implement it too. And I'll probably write up a paper or some kind of outline for you so you can start applying it where you are at, because local currency is what we're going to be depending on in the future. And that's okay. Good. Thank you, Kimberly, for the very kind blessing. She says, may all the light that you give us be returned to you 1,000 times. So be it. And I also wish that for you as well. Maureen says, you've mentioned in past calls that Gaia has a soul. Can I assume that all planets and suns also have souls? Are the planets of our solar system actually brothers and sisters to Gaia and the sun? Yeah, I actually addressed this in the last 2 classes of galactic law in the spheres of influence and wisdom, Maureen. So, yes, I would say that, yeah, everything is conscious, and yeah, we're all brothers and sisters, and that you, Maureen, are the sister of the sun and Gaia. That's really interesting to think about. This planet was brought here. So if we're thinking in terms of like creation, she's kind of the adopted child of this solar system. But yeah, everything's conscious. And there's of course lots of consciousness on Gaia's surface, just as there is on yours. You're mostly made of bacteria, and they all have consciousness too. But I like the way you are perceiving that, and I think that that's a nice way to see it. And we all are brothers and sisters in consciousness, headed to the same place, headed home to source. All right, so yeah, I also feel the same way, Marion. We're all continuing to grow in our mutual support and showing up and just being the best that we can be for each other, being as open and vulnerable as possible, talking about our problems and how we're solving it, talking about the journey. That's the best thing that you can be doing too for others. They need to hear about you. They don't want to hear about perfection. People want to hear about, I want to hear about what struggles we go through and how we're meeting those struggles, cuz everyone's got a unique way to do that. And that's really key. And the more ways we can learn how to do it, the better. All right, so ooh, I like that idea, Janine. So Janine just popped in and said, I've often wished we could call a global town hall and have you address all the sentient beings here so we can start addressing our problems from common truth of existence. I like that idea. Let me sit with that, Janine. I always said I'd love to be the emissary that talks to the aliens. But we have so many sentient beings on this planet from all over the place in different dimensions to boot. I'd love to do that. That sounds like a really awesome job and fitting for a galactic anthropologist. All right. So before I go, I definitely want to make sure that you get another resource too. A friend of mine has a very special thing to offer you. He's been working for 25 plus years, probably way more than that. I'd say 35 years at least, with the crystals. His name is Leo McFee. He's a good friend of mine. And he has been creating a masterwork, and it's supportive. I actually have some of these crystal essences. It's like homeopathy, but with crystals. And I know many of you have like done flower essences and homeopathy and can feel how powerful that is. But as these dimensions are being embodied by the earth, more and more of the elemental pieces are coming in, right? So not just the elements of fire and water, etc., but the crystal world too, which is very conscious. And so I've put in my description for you information about his offering, and I want you to reach out to him and look at what he has available, because these essences are really awesome. So he gave me some to test out, and my children love them. And they're so supportive for what we're all going through. So when I'm talking about like physical support, these kinds of things, bring in the plants and the flowers, bring in the homeopathy, bring in the crystal world. But while we usually use crystals on the outside of our body, because you can't eat a piece of quartz so easily, this is how you do it from the inside. And you have a lot of crystals inside of you, of course, because you have so many minerals. You've got iron and calcium and silica and wonderful, lots and lots of different crystals inside of you. And some of you who've had injuries have some titanium in there too. And I always tell my friends who have titanium implants, like, you have a friend. Titanium is super powerful. And it's unique to have it inside of you. But this is the way to bring this stuff in without feeling like you've got to have it from the outside. And these essences he's been working on for ages. And he's actually really scientific and spiritual about his relationship with the crystal world. He's an empath as well. So feeling energy is really key. And I rarely tell people to go to someone else unless they're truly a master at something, right? So my teacher, Lucia, I've told you to look at her today. I've told you to go seek out Robert Powell and his astrocartography and his understanding of astrology. But Leo McFee is the guy I would say, if you like crystals, this is something that you're going to want to work with. It's going to feel very nourishing for you. And many of you are grid keepers, and those grids are all built by the crystal world, and they're conscious. So there's a lot of friendship and familiarity with the crystal world. And I think that this stuff is unique. I haven't really seen anything quite like it, which is why I'm promoting it. And so, because it's something to support you. So I've been telling some people, go learn about communicating to animals. Anna Breitenbach, best in the world. Most of her stuff's free on YouTube. And you can learn from her. Go and look at the flower essences world too. Very supportive for your body and emotions. And now we've got crystal essences to boot. So I'd like to just suggest that you utilize these things for your support right now and experiment. Experiment on what works best for you. Always be willing to experiment. I'm always experimenting on myself. So I did these first before I told you about them. And I've been working with these essences. And he builds grids as well. I'll send an email out soon more about all these things. But oh my goodness, I love it. I think it's so awesome. It feels really great, and it's felt really powerful in the past 3 months for me, going through so many changes. Feeling connected to something that is stable, the crystal world, that's really stable and more unchangeable, has felt really awesome. So I hope that'll help you. It's an option. We've got a lot of great masters in the world, and in my desire for help, to get more help for myself, I found some cool people and friends of mine who've really come into their mastery. So I'm always happy to share. Thank you so much for listening to that piece here. Let's do the crystal essence guy's name is Leo McFee. So yeah, flower essences, crystal essences, the plant and mineral kingdom. How cool is that? Here, I'll type it for you. And so again, if you look at the description, and I'll send an email out with these links too, with the replay of our call today. There's a link to his document where he describes all this stuff and who he is and what he's offering. And then you can email him. And right now he's in the United States for a couple more weeks. But he has a huge body of stuff there, and he can mail it out wherever. So I just hope that helps you. All right, so let's talk about a little more healing, right? So I think it might be good to build a pillar of light. We haven't done that in a while. I stopped doing that for a long time, but it seems appropriate now. So why don't we build a pillar of light for our community, for a healing circle, something that we can go to over and over again. So even beyond this call, something that will last for all of us. And let me ask Earth and Source right now, where should we do this if it's appropriate? And I'm getting, that it's okay to do right now. But there's a sort of a new grid of light that's available from Earth because she's embodied all these cool dimensions. There's like sort of this subtle realm of light. It looks like gold light. It looks like sort of a gold shell around the Earth. We're going to connect it to that. So I'm just asking where. Okay. So there's a mountain here in southern Ecuador, and it's considered the seat of the divine masculine by the local people. It's called Colombo. And this mountain is sort of like the energy of God the Father. There's a powerful presence in this masculine mountain, and it's huge. It's really quite large. Now, this mountain, being the seat of the divine masculine, there's this relentless calm that emanates from it. And it's the same calm of my friend last night who came and dropped me off. And this guy, he used to be the head of a tank squadron, and he was in a terrible war with Peru. And it's the same relentless calm of someone who has been a warrior and a commander and who's moved into the spiritual world. Someone who has seen it. the divine masculine who has seen war, and nothing can shake this guy's calm. But it's so nourishing, and you feel so safe. It feels like a hug from the divine father, this presence. And I was so moved by it last night because I just felt so safe in his presence, and I always have, but having him be attentive, it was beautiful, and it was unique. And Colombo, this mountain, has the same energy. It's a hug from the divine father saying, it's okay, you're safe. You're safe. There is no death. There is no death. There is only learning. And it's that beautiful, endless, what I'm naming is that relentless calm. So let's go there. I want you to just psychically imagine it. And imagine this mountain, right? It's really big. And he's just cool. He's a cool, powerful mountain. You don't need to know exactly where it is. It's in southern Ecuador. So we're going to go on top of this mountain, and you can see the Andes as far as you can see, all the way around you. You can see all the clouds like an ocean, and the sky opens up. And so you're really close to the sun here where we're at. And so the sky is vivid sapphire blue, deeper blue than you can imagine. Even like this color, it's wild. So you feel close to the sky, you feel close to the heavens, but then you've got the divine mother and then the divine masculine coming up in this mountain. So we're going to go on to the top of this mountain and just feel the expansiveness. It's the highest mountain around. And so you can see all the other mountains and the sea of mountains and clouds around you. All right, so we're getting together in this circle. We're going to build a pillar of light. Yeah, and I've asked the mountain just with my heart, and the mountain's like, cool. Let's do a pillar of light. Okay, so we've got yeses all around. Let's do it. All right, so this pillar is the intention of healing for all of us. It's going to act as a transmitter of healing. So even better than just a healing circle, it's a transmitter of healing out to all of us, to our circle. And it will remain here in perpetuity until it's not needed anymore. And that's what pillars of light are good for. And it's a fourth dimensional structure, which is why all you have to do is imagine it with me, and it becomes real. It's created together. And you're going to help me create this. So it's for all of us, and we get to be in service to each other and sovereign service to ourselves too. So any intentions that you have for yourself and your healing and your family, and any intentions you have for our healing in the circle as well, you can put into this pillar at any time, and you can add more and more, kind of like a place of prayer that transmits those intentions out to the world. So we'll start with the bottom of the pillar, which is connected to the top of the mountain, the heart, the core of this big mountain, Colombo, the divine masculine, and his relentless calm. And so from the gut space, from the gut and the root, we're going to project energy like a Care Bear stare. And just pull up energy here in your gut, and with the intention of healing ourselves and our collective, and of course everyone in our community, I just want you to project that intent. And it's going to turn into something unique. And I'll describe what I see. You might see or feel something different. There's no wrong way to do this. There's no wrong seeing. All right, but I'll describe what I see. So with that intent for healing for ourselves and the collective, just project that intention through the gut, through the sea of chi, through the power center of your body, through that powerful gut mind. And with a deep breath, we project to the center, the very bottom of our pillar now. Wow. All right. So every pillar is different. And if you've ever done this with me before, you know I'm always amazed. And this time's no different. It was pretty instant. It was gold light coming up from the mountain from each of us. This gold fountain it wasn't just the bottom of this pillar, it was a huge gold fountain. And you know what immediately happened? It started showering down on all of us instantly. Instantly, you're included. Instantly, everyone being nourished by this intention. That's how powerful our work together really is. All right, now we come into the heart. And the same, just bring in any heartfelt intentions, whatever that might feel like for you. And now, with a deep breath, let's project that healing, that intent from the heart space to the center of our pillar. Wow, okay, so this very different energy. It's a ruby red, like deep red, almost garnet, deeper than ruby, like a garnet color. And this came to the center of the pillar. It started out as like a sphere of this red light, and then it narrowed and it turned into almost like a laser beam. And the laser beam energy went down to the core of the earth, and it went up and out. And it just goes on and on to the edge of the universe. So this is stability. This is power, stability, and strength. So from the heart space, what we've done, some common intention in our healing was stability and strength, stamina and power. And that is going to help continue to offer this to the collective as a gift, but also to you. So that's actually the core of the pillar. So now it looks like a gold fountain. It's very tall, but showers down around everyone. And then this really stabilizing core that looks like this deep, dark red. And it's very beautiful. Good. Now come up into the third eye in the crown, and you're going to project similar. So whatever intent comes from there. Again, we don't have to have any specific anything in mind. You just intend healing for yourself and the collective. And so just bringing that up here, bringing the energy here from the throat, the face, the third eye, the crown. And now we'll project that to the top of the pillar with a deep breath. Wow. Yeah, this is different than anything we've ever done before. It makes sense because of the energies of the earth and all of us and how much we've changed. All of you have changed so much. And we've worked so hard on ourselves. This is different, though. This, instead of it becoming like a top to the pillar, it actually became a big field of white light that looks like it's sort of being emanated from the top of the pillar, but it's this field and it just goes on and on and on. And I saw all of us getting included in it, and it felt like a new field. It feels like a field of clarity. And so a lot of what we've been asking for is clarity lately, because we're in this field of clear light. And so it's the name of the game in consciousness right now is clarity, right? And the dissolving of illusion, the dissolving of distortion, the ability to see our true selves in humility and so much more. But this feels like a gift of clarity to all of us, so that we can all be clear and see light, see the light, see the light in all things, see the light in each of us, see each other's souls versus our egos and personalities, intending to speak from and be in the soul speak soul to soul. See the light in all things is the message I get. So we have the very welcoming nourishment of the divine masculine through the gold light, that big safe hug that we all crave from God. And then we have this stabilization, very feminine, from the earth, the heart of the earth and the universe, very feminine energy as well, stabilizing everything. And then we have this nondescript, but just really beautiful, pure white light of clarity that also is affecting this part, the upper part of the body. And this is here for us. This is going to remain here, being maintained happily by Columbo, who's like, ooh, I'm so glad I get some attention today. And of course, Gaia, happy to always support these kinds of endeavors of the spirit. This is for you. This is for us. And it's for everyone on this planet, too. Even the people that make us mad, they need the most healing. So this is our gift today to ourselves and each other as a deep healing and nourishing for your stamina, for your well-being, for your continued clarity and guidance, and for your mastery too, of what you're here to do. So this is beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, we get to rejoice together in co-creation. It's always quite fun. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for co-creating together and collaborating. Thanks for seeing me and hearing me. Thanks for being patient with me. And we will meet at the end of this month and keep that up as a regular, of course. That's my intent, with full gusto. And I just honor you and give you so much love. We've all been through a lot the past few months, and you're still kicking, you're still here. We're still moving ahead. Some of it's been unbelievable, right? So I really appreciate the fact that you're not giving up. Don't stop. Don't stop. We're on the cutting edge, folks. I love you deeply with all my heart. Keep me posted on things, and if you need any help, let me know. I'm going to try to fix that coupon right now for you so you can come play more easily. I hope it serves you well this month as my gift to you. All my love, my friends. And we'll talk soon. Namaste.